tax effort in the 2000s, in the year 2000s, was also in 2019 at 15%. So yung RVAT ni President Gloria picked us up from 11.5 to 14. That was the single biggest increase because we increased the taxes. We subjected petroleum from 0 to 12%, but at the same time, we increased the VAT from 10 to 12%. So you can immediately see that the most radical. But again, when 2010 came in, we had a spate of almost, I think, how many? 200 new tax exemptions for all sorts of social reasons. So, balik tayo sa bago. So, we have this cycle of radical tax reforms and then radical tax exemptions. So, the highest tax effort, next room, the highest credit rating was achieved. We are now the blue one at S&P, the green one is Fitch, and the orange, of course, is Moody's. Next. Na madali ko lang. But COVID-19 interrupted our growth narrative. With COVID-19 lockdowns, revenues collapsed while spending surged. Emergency health, ayuda. Magkano lahat ito? So revenue as percentage of GDP went up to 24%, but expenditure as percentage of GDP, baliktad. So the revenue, next. So ito, kasama nito yung SWP. Magkano total nito? 1.8 trillion ang ginastos ng Pilipinas na wala namang revenue backup. So ito talaga yung pinakamalaking problema natin ngayon at magiging. So next. So the gap was financed essentially with ODA loans from ADB, World Bank, AIB, JICA. So, but reform made the system next resilient, no credit downgrade, financing costs stayed manageable. The post-COVID challenge is fiscal recovery, needed reforms to contain debt without hurting recovery. Focus on broad-based broadening, digitalization, and efficiency. We avoided rate hikes or anti-growth measures. Next. However, this is now the start of the warning because since 2022, there has been no fiscal reform program, either by announcement or by measure. So, interest payments as percentage of total GDP has started to creep up again back to the 4%. In 2000, ninenervyos na si Presidente Gloria nung interest IP was 4.5% of total GDP. So, yung blue is principal. So, pag in-add mo yung dalawa, so, creates IRR also cause confusion among export and manufacturing sector. Pero ito naayos na po natin. Created highest FDI ever. IRR, however, squandered the progress made, but create more actually restored it. Tourist arrival remained below pre-pandemic levels, hence VAT refund. Kita ho natin yan ng Vietnam, sumipa na, pero Pilipinas, hindi pa sumisipa ang turista. Next, post-COVID tax reform achievement, EOPT, VAT on digital services, VAT on refund for tourists, capital market, CMEPA, and of course, create more, which fixed the VAT to the export sector. Emerging fiscal risk. Interest payments is now growing as percentage of the budget from 12% to 17% in 2023. That will eat up the budget either for social services. I saw this already in year 2003. No, but may recognize my good friend, Congressman. Population is steadily aging. Pension and healthcare needs will rise. May I also recognize Congressman Ray Florence Reyes, my good friend of Anak Kalusugan, Congressman Sunny Lacson Lagun of PL Ako Bisaya, Congresswoman Rosana Ria Vergara of 3rd District, Nueva Vizcaya, Nueva Ecija, Congresswoman Miri Kua, Congresswoman Baby Vargas Alfonso. So ito malaking problema natin. There is some kind of a convergence, although yung population, we are able, but andito na si Mila. So I think she has to fight for her proportional share of the welfare for the downside protection for an aging population. The cost of climate disaster is also rising from 20 billion. It has risen in 2023 to 70 billion. This is based on DOF, World Bank, and NDRRMC. The oil import bill is also rising. For one simple reason, we killed our oil refining. Before we had oil refiners, we were only paying $8 billion a year. After we closed down all our refineries, it shot up to $18 billion. That's the price to pay when you kill manufacturing. So there is no need for complicated science for this particular chart. It's simply because the gross value added coming from manufacturing of oil products is huge. Now we have to pay for it from buying from Singapore, essentially. So I don't know if we can bring Petron back to this. So lower our oil. LGU share of revenues also increased after the Mandanas. Hindi kesyo last day ko na dito mananakot ako. Pero mabuti na maiwan to na masolve natin. LGU underspending. Problema, binigyan mo nga ng pera, pero underspending nila tumaas naman from 28 to 36%. But it's up to DBM to have some form of penalty and reward system, especially if they are being spent on the proper areas, like growth-inducing areas, like infrastructure for water, infrastructure for, and there's also declining tax collections. Again, from 176 billion, we're down to 134. For the past, we've lost 76 minus, ano ba to? 76 billion, no? We've lost 76 billion for the past 3 years from cumulatively from tobacco collection due to the shift to vape. And so now this is your biggest problem for the 2016 budget. There is a bunching up of our maturities due to the loans we picked up during COVID. So makikita mo naman, baka pwede, madali naman to spread out. Usually, makita ko to when I was picked up by President Gloria and I was put in the part of the economic managers. I saw exactly the same chart. Pero yung spike doon was due to pagpasok po nung utang natin dahil sa mga IPP nung panahon ni President President Ramos. But this one will be different how to you spread it out, because in 2016 you have $8.3 billion to be refinanced. Okay lang sana yan, but look in the next. Bond yields are still above COVID levels. Okay lang kasi sabi ng orange, which is the projected yields by World Bank, baka bumaba to from 4%. Unfortunately, yun ang sinasabi natin na we don't have the luxury because we have the sama naman ang ano po, valedictorians. I recognize Congressman Sergio Dago of APEC. Marami rin itong problema. So yan ang problema natin fiscally. I think if only this government can spell, no, that's pronounce fiscal reform. Since 2022, the DOF has not mentioned any announcement fiscal reform. If you're afraid, then you will be more afraid of what's in front of you. And the only solution there is to put the entire system, body politic, in a physical situation of understanding why you will reduce certain ayudas, you will rationalize certain support system. But collections are stagnating despite e-commerce or due to e-commerce because goods over internet are rising as shown by the lower chart. But in the upper chart, which is the VAT collections, you can see na at least for 3 years, yung VAT did not reflect the increase in goods over internet. So let's go with the remaining tax reform measures. First is the mining fiscal regime. Obviously, I think this is dead. Next. I will not discuss it anymore. Dead na. So, the ring there is, ano pa ba yung mga nandito? Second is the sweetened beverage taxation. HB 7485. Oh, we did not tackle this. Bakit? Oh, for the 20th. Nga pala, okay na. Oh. Kasi ano to, trade-off between malnutrition and obesity. Ngayon, you look at the next page, next, declining effectiveness of SSB. Kasi ilang taon na tayo na may SSB pero hindi naman bumaba yung obesity. Pero tumaas yung malnutrition. So, I don't know how to resolve this. Sabihin mo kaya ang angko na pakisolve nga ito. Kilala mo rin, di ba? Na. I think we have to ask Lionel how to solve this. Because SSB did not reduce obesity but increased malnutrition. Next. And then the next measure is vape and tobacco taxation. This should be easier to do with my good friend here. Ano ba chairman ng commission na point? Wala na ako. So, this was approved. It is awaiting Senate action. Sayang. Magkano ba dapat kukitain dito? Malaki-laki to eh. Kasi yung vape increase lang, itatapat lang natin doon sa 66 pesos. Nandun sa ano eh, nandun sa Senate. So, ang sunod is plastic pollution. Magkano lang po? Magkano nakikitain dito? 3 billion? Tapos, yung excise tax on plastics, and then motor vehicle road users tax, kung sana malaki-laki, mga 500 billion over 5 years. But let me end there. we will not end as if there is ano. And then of course the MUP, which would have cut down our actuarial reserve efficiency by 9.6 trillion to 14 trillion. Hindi ko na po isa-isahin. Kaso this is also sleeping in the Senate. And from my understanding with some people there, they think it might, ano lang, natatakot lang sila baka it might steer some Pandora's box within the military. Although lahat ng gusto, everybody in the military likes that, sure. May recognize Congressman Dolfo Ongpong Ordanes of Senior Citizen. So now at this point, let me go now to the second. Gusto yung approval of the minutes, diba? So may I now call on Congressman Pepito Alvarez. Otherwise, thank you for the mangoes beside my house. Minambahay ko, pinaglalagyan ito ng mangga. Yes.
Should I move that
Dispense with the reading.
yeah. Before we proceed, I move to dispense with the reading of minutes of a meeting held on December 2 and 17, 2024, and January 7, January 14, January 21, and January 27, 2025, and approve the same. Said minutes has been uploaded to our Viber group, Fiscal copies.
Thank you, Congressman Dago, Congresswoman Magsaysay. Let's put that on the record. Are there any objection? Hearing none. The minutes of the meeting held on December 2, 17, January 7, 14, 21, 27 are hereby approved. Now we go to the last portion, briefing on the Republic Act 12214, the last major act of this committee, which has become a law, for the so-called CMEPA, Capital Market Efficiency Promotion. So may I just ask Congress ASEC Carlo Adriano. I have a long page to read here, but I'd rather read it. ASEC Adriano is here by record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Again, I would like to thank the committee on Wednesday in implementing and shepherding all of these reforms, necessary reforms to ensure fiscal sustainability of the country, particularly in the time of the pandemic. I will be discussing for today the Capital Market Efficiency Promotion Act, or CMEPA, that was signed in law last May 29. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the objective of the CMEPA are as follows. First is basically to simplify the taxes, particularly on passive income. And the objective there is that taxation of passive income should be equitable. And the second objective is to basically improve capital market development. Next slide, please. So the coverage of the reform are as follows. Number one, taxes on interest income. Number two, the stock transaction tax, or STT. Number three, some documentary stamp taxes on certain financial transactions and products. Number four, excise tax on pickups. And lastly, some repeal of tax exemptions under various special. Next slide. This is just the legislative timeline. I will skip this. Next slide. So what is the summary of the CMEPA reform? So number one is to impose a uniform 20% final tax on interest income. Number two, reduce the STT from 0.6 to 0.1 and adopt the same on shares listed on foreign stock exchange. Number three, restructure the DST on certain financial transactions and products, or remove the exemption of the pickup trucks, excise tax of pickup trucks. Number five, repeal the tax exemption of passive income under previous laws. Number six, entitle employer to an additional 50% tax deduction for his contributions to employees' PERA. And number 7, income tax exemption on project-specific funds and redemption gains from UITF. Next slide. So this will just provide you a summary of the key features. So again, as I mentioned, it tackles on the taxes on interest income before you have several ranges on the interest income from 0% up to 20%. As you can see, it can be 0, 5, 12, and 20. Now we equalize everything to 20%. Next slide. So for royalties, there were no changes, but I would like to note number 3, stock transaction tax. Again, we reduced it from 0.6 to 0.1% to improve capital market development. Next slide is the excise tax on pickups. Before, there was an exemption on double cab chassis pickups. Now we removed that exemption, but we'd like to know that we retain the exemption on single cab chassis pickups. Next slide, please. These are with regards to the documentary stamp taxes. So number 1 is the original issuance of shares of stocks. From 1%, we reduce it to 0.75%, again, for capital market development. Number 2 is just clarifications on the DST on bonds, debentures, certificate of stocks, or indebtedness issued in foreign countries. It's 0.75%. And then for all debt instruments, it's at 0.75%. Next slide. We also provided exemption on redemption or other disposition of shares of stocks listed and traded through that should be foreign stock exchange. Currently, the local stock exchange is already exempted. We extended that to foreign stock exchange. Number 5, we also provided exemption on the DST of original issuance, redemption, or other disposition of shares in a mutual fund company. And lastly, we provided exemption on the issuance of certificate or other evidence of participation in a mutual fund or investment trust fund. So all of these items are related to capital market development. Next slide, please. As mentioned earlier, there was a reform on the PERA or personal equity and retirement accounts where we provided additional deduction amounting to 50% from gross income of private employers who contribute an equal to or greater than their employees' fund. Next slide. The CMEPA also provided some definition of securities and a definition on passive. So,
allows for the price discovery to be appropriate.
on the definition of
Possible one of those subsets. Investment contract certificates of can it be accommodated there? Short selling is a much.
We'll clarify this in the IRR because it's not specific.
But during the discussion here, Mr. Good, do you remember? What we wanted to show say. Otherwise, it's also from my inefficiency in the market na sa ibang countries, they're able to properly price their because different century. Here you can only keep value, can sell. In other countries, you can sell even if you don't appreciate. in section 2, because that is an investment contract. For example, sir, you have 10 million shares of Sanicare. Tayong dalawa, we enter into a contract. And the price, whatever the price in the market is, let's say it is about 120. So sorry, because you say, after let's say 6 months, I don't have the share, but I sell it to the market. I raised 120 times 100 to 150, 12 billion. But after so many days, or so many months, I return the shares whatever price. Yeah. That is an investment. Tapos, sinabi ko na lahat sa mga kung tayo papasok sa market. Sabi kasi ni Stanford ko, dapat daw yung reference to short selling should be generic. Pero alam mo, just ko, that's already 100 years old. It's being done everywhere in the world. It allows for proper price discovery. Therefore, it promotes efficiency in the pricing of our. There is, sir. Umayos kasi. Defer to once you pay them, there is no estimate. Ako na-solve namin ito. Shortcut kasi yan instead of putting short sell. Ang iba kasi nakulat na kung mag-short sell. Wala nang problema. It's a I borrowed shares from you. Then I sold it in the market. I raised money, but certain I can pay you back. With or without profits. It's my judgment. Kasi yan pala, may short selling. Anyway, nasa PSC namin naman siya. Tapos kaso gusto sana may pasok dispatch.
So we'll be consulting with SEC naman. Take more of comment on this.
Okay lang. I will not die for it. Walang mamamatay dyan. Ang problema, it shows how backward we are. Because short selling is a form of properly pricing. It's a way of efficiently pricing our financial instruments, whether equity, debt, or whatever prefers. Akal, pakitapos nga pala yung presentation. Sira po pala yun. You're not yet finished.
Yes, sir. Three more, I think one more slide.
Busin mo.
And then next slide. This slide just provides the list, revealing list under CMEPA. Regards to that. And then next slide is the revenue impact. So we have two revenue provided here. The first one, total CMEPA of around 41.9 billion from 2025 to 2030. This revenue does not include the B2 items, the B2 items. And then the succeeding table with the green background, total CMEPA with B2 items, which is around 25 billion from 2025 to 2030, includes the three B2 items. So what are those three B2 items? Number one is the exemption on the interest income of FCDU held by non-resident. Number two, the exemption of bill guarantee on their passive income. And number three, the PCS or DST that is passed on to parents, but technically that does not have any impact on the revenue. Yes, sir.
The last.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's the last slide.
So where are we going now after this?
Mr. Chair, we're
Are you preparing any form of fiscal report, given all the facts that are now being presented to you?
Mr. Chair, we have a recalibration plan that we have. We're just finalizing our legislative agenda for that we get Congress.
Can you give me a snapshot?
Mr. Chair, I cannot yet because it's not yet approved by our secretary. But we have a recalibration plan.
Calculation. There's a word reform.
This is, sir,
Alam mo, mag-announce ka lang. You studied from, let's say, 1965 till now. Once DOF says we will do reform, the efficiency goes up by 0.26. By just announcing. You don't even have to do it. 546 of GDP. So that's a lot. That's 80 billion. So that can finance a lot of the other things, especially in terms of the higher interest payments that we have. 17% na kayo. The highest we got was 28% of total budget was in IT or investments. That was in 2000 and that's before our party 2000.
Mr. Chair, we are aware of these numbers, the creeping share of interest payments as percent of revenue and as percent expenditure. We are also aware.
So in short, you're sacrificing program. Yes,
So
that's the only way to,
but we would like to note that we're still committed to this fiscal consolidation as provided in the terms of framework. I'm
but
not
if
saying.
you go back to the MTF, it was in itself already anti-growth. If you add back the cash, yung cash budgeting, you will see that every year during the entire MTF, the government keeps sucking back 120 billion out of the system.
Mr. Chair, the targets
Can
provided.
we go back to the MTF? I think so we only have one more discussion. This only for purposes of intellectualizing the issues. The entire MTF, if you go basic down the line, at ipasok mo na NASCAS-based budgeting pa. It was actually meant the underlying logic was for the government to suck up the sources of growth in order to maintain the 60% debt to GDP. Kasi if you want, akala ko ba yung pronouncement is to grow out of the debt. It's that what we did was sacrificed so that our debt will not go on.
Mr. Chair, in the MTFF, there are two basically equation there, part of the equation. One is we need to improve our revenue. And as you can see in the MTFF, there are targets for revenue increasing over time. And at the same time, expenditure is also increasing, but at a slower rate.
Kasi hindi nyo tinatanggal yung cash-based budget.
Now, sir, although expenditure is growing less than the revenue, we note that we maintain the target of infrastructure spending of around 5 to 6% of GDP.
Na mas mababa yung expenditure kaysa.
Sir, because we need to do some fiscal consolidation, given that our debt to GDP.
Yeah, why don't you make it before so you don't have to say anything else? And then the revenues will go up by 0.36 of GDP.
Mr. Chair,
Because the entire body politic response every time the administration says we will do fiscal reforms.
Mr. Chair, I'm not saying we won't have any reforms. As I mentioned earlier, we are just finalizing the legislative agenda of the Department of Finance. We're just waiting for the final approval of our secretary in terms of what will be the lineup of our reforms for the 2023.
So now finally, I thought,
Finalizing the reform.
okay na sa akin. So are there any issues that our members would like to raise naman? Good luck to you on your next budget. You can already see where you're going. You will definitely reduce spending either on your ayuda or your infrastructure. Because higher interest rates, higher interest payments, higher municipal payments, reduced revenues from our main taxation like tobacco. So we have combination. Essentially, an involuntary fiscal reform joke back. So is there any motion? Ma'am Maria, you can phone in your question. It's good you're not here. Yeah, you're recognized. Any problem? Sabi.
Congresswoman Reyes said po, via Zoom, can the chair show the breakdown of debt during COVID? How much of our debt during COVID went to ayuda or vaccine, etc.?
Ay, nandito sa page, ano po, it's here. Massive stimulus. How much was spent? How much cash is required for the following year?
Here, I'm not aware of the specifics of the debt incurred during COVID. I'm not fully aware. I'm not sure we can just provide the number. Mr. Most of the time our loans are budgetary support, but I'm not sure of the particular breakdown during. But most of the time it's budgetary.
43 na ito galing sa ADB. Oo. ADB, 4.23 billion. World Bank, 3.1, 1.500. So, meron ba kayong study ba? They call you back. What's your kailan ba? Last answer. What's your response set of the bureau as the head of the economic managers with respect to the required job? Sure. One response. $2. Official response to the prompt lines.
Mr. Chair, I'm not part of the team that negotiated. But as far as I know, there was a team that negotiated with the US officials as well. And there was also a study done wherein they found out that although yes, there's a 70% tariff imposed on goods, big majority of it though are exempted. Like for instance, with conductors, there are some exceptions. And then if you take a look at the tariff imposed in the ASEAN countries, we're one of the lowest, 70%. So the government right now, particularly the econ managers, is strategizing on how to actually make this an opportunity for the Philippines, given that, for instance, in Vietnam, they're imposed at a very high rate. The proper response maybe is to attract more investors to invest in the Philippines, given that we have a relatively comparative advantage in terms of tariffs for the US. So, but on the specifics on the talks,
Subject po ba tayo sa ROO? Subject pa tayo ng ROO sa WTO? No, but they did not, there was no, there was, the last one was Uruguay. We have a trade section in the deal. No, it's a CTRF, remember?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair.
So, um, right, I don't know, an overview that, we are guided. There's some future. I will not be there, don't worry. But I did the patrol. Search of them. That's also.
Mr. Chair, on the particular response of the government with respect to the imposition of yes, tariff, tariff, exported in US. Sir, uh, I'm not, I'm not aware of the details. As I mentioned, I was not part of negotiation team. Maybe sir, we can send a response na lang, a formal response.
Usually pag may mga ganyan, dapat may interagency.
Yes, Mr. Chair, it was discussed in the monthly economic managers meeting.
But there should be a specific interagency, already that dedicated, take part issues.
Mr. Chair, I think there is already.
Not from the cabinet level, but secretary level, then PC level. Like you have an interagency on inflation, why not an interagency on Trump? Increase now. I know, that's true. Say, somebody like this.
Mr. Chair, we could just provide in the details because I think in the US, the revenue operations on this tariff negotiations. Then definitely there are officials coming from the DEP and ETN as well. So we can just provide you a formal written response to the questions.
Including PSG.
Mr. Chair, I believe there is a numbers coming from PEDA in terms of what the of the tariffs.
You have
Mr. Chair.
there's something in the but this assistant like going and
Yes,
inflation. It's
Mr. Chair,
see
that
or hex.
them already has some modeling of it, some numbers. It's not sure of their structure right now, but if it's based on the previous structure of the MEDA, then it should be under the PPR funds.
Their oaths. Yeah, yeah. Run of a bad mayor and the EMJ. It will be the face of the response of the government. From dollars. But again, the world trade will swing, but our share times. I think that's what we hear. Kasi ang tariffs are small as the but the entire package. This thing actually these tariffs trade.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Basically, with this trade wars, the tendency is to have some global economic downturns that will not just affect the global economy, but also domestic. There could be some effect.
However, based on economic stimulus, underway economic stimulus. Because if the external demand goes down, then the related offset. Kasi ang hirap yun. Alam mo, yung natutunan ko lang, simula ng natin. Kasi, pinagalitan ako. Short. Na, ma'am, sabi ko, okay lang na pababae para next swap. Mataas na, ano, so, pagsan ba? Sabi, no, Joey, that's not the proper set of good moral values. Should never let the GDP go down so that you can have it higher than the next one. So, in short, may I use the same principle that what is it that the government will do so that our GDP will not go down to Can you advance the era of all the energy use, for example? What's now? NPP. Notice of payments. NPS, Notice of Payment Scheme. Gawa na yan dati. So there's nothing new with that. Kasi nga, there will be no external demand. Therefore, there is higher internal demand.
Mr. Chair, yes, although I may mention this will have some impact to the Philippine economy. I'd like to note that majority of our economy is domestic facing, particularly on household consumption. So as mentioned by World Bank and ADB, although there will be an impact to the Philippines, it will be relatively quite more. So it does not mean that we do it doesn't mean that we should not respond. I agree, sir, that based on Asian economics during the time of crisis, government needs to spend more. That's why actually, sir, we have this NDFS so that we can do fiscal consolidation, so that in times of crisis or in times of need, we have a buffer. We have some room to spend more. Though, again, the final decision whether we spend more and how are we going to spend will be dependent on the final decision.
So, like the concept of postponed consumption to investment. See.
Concern?
Postponed consumption to investment. Initially, 20% million. Sa akin. Kasi mga naka-FLR po mga tubo. Sa mga FLR. Suicidal yung ginawa natin sa budget natin. It will definitely, you will be sub 5. More like 4.4. Don't do anything. Because of your FCR, your FLR, your Frito, and everything. So there will be nothing to buy downside protection. Any external benefits to the so, kano ba pa yung FCR? FLR for the 30. Meron ka pa ba? Ikaw yun natin ka lang. 290. Atak 90. Different na 330 billion.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just like to share with you yung epekto ng Trump tariff. Fifth, province Palawan. Dati, we used to produce close to 1 million tons of seaweeds. Priced at between 40 45 per kilo. 14% moisture. Ngayon, because everybody in the US is waiting. By the way, seaweeds are used for our bills. They're also used for hamburger or meat extender in the US. It's the biggest market. Ngayon, not even 14 pesos yung 1 kilo ng tambalang na seaweeds from the northern Palawan. Nakakaawa yung farmers natin. These are the effect. Everybody that is importing seaweeds from us are waiting for the Trump tariffs to be final because Trump is always like that, up and down. Dapat meron tayong response dito sa Pilipinas. Ito namang production namin ng seaweeds, pwede naman bilhin ng gobyerno ito, store mo na. Hindi naman ito mag-decay. Pag na-resolve yung Trump tariffs na yan, definitely, yung demand ng seaweeds all over the world will rebound. So, suggestion ko, people in the farthest remote areas of our country are suffering, and I feel it because they come to me for ayuda. Sabi ko, wala nang ayuda dahil gobyerno ngayon. Mababa yung ating revenues. Wala rin yung ating expenditure. So, one particular product lang yan. Seaweeds, tambalang. Around 45 to 14 pesos na obtaining. Parang palay din yan. From 19, bababa po sa 10.50 dahil meron tayong commitment to sell rice at 20 pesos. Patay. I don't know what's going to happen for the next budget. Good luck. Ay, nako. Ako lang yun.
May I recognize the Deputy Minority Leader, Paul Danza, an investment banker from New York, who is sold to stock. Usapan natin yung Trump tariffs. So what is DOF? Pesos. Trump power. Andun sila. We're about to finish. We're just waiting for you. Yes, you are.
I apologize, I'm late. I wanted to hear the DOF presentation, but I actually came here for two reasons. Well, the second one is out of maybe 60-something committees in the 19th Congress, the Committee on Ways and Means is probably at least in the top 3 in terms of meetings, hard work, and producing good bills. So in behalf of the minority members of the House, we'd like to congratulate the chairman, the COMSEC, and the members of this committee for doing such a great job for the 19th Congress. And the next chairman will have a hard time filling the shoes of the 19th Congress chairman. So we thank you for the hard work, and whether we agreed or not in a few things, it's really secondary. The important thing is this committee produced a lot of good bills, discussions that's good for the country and for the House. So congratulations and thank you for a job well done.
Oh. You have no question.
I just asked for the materials from DOF. I had questions on it, but no more na.
So, the chair is ready for his favorite motion.
I move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Other object, seconded. by the GOG and Congresswoman Magsaysay. Are there any objection? And hearing none, thank you very much. We will have our last on the 11th. Ano ba yung sa 11? But that's 14 pa naman. Thank you. Session adjourned. Oy, Secretariat daw. Upo ka muna.